happening today, and I'm going to have, later, you're going to have an introduction to our main speaker today. But let me just say that Will Wilkinson is going to be doing that introduction in a little while. So let me just say a couple things about Will. Will is right here, an Ashlander, and we are really proud that we have a culture of peace movement right here in Ashland. Isn't that great that we have that? And Will is a big part of that. Will is also a life coach, a professional speaker, and an author, and a change maker. And so later on, after we go through a couple songs, he's going to be introducing our main speaker today, that we're excited to hear from. I also want to say that we'll be having a special solo in a little while that he will introduce as well. But our musicians today, regular musicians, are Heather and Richard, and Donna's going to be accompanying them. I also want to say that there's going to be some books on the table, books for sale on the back table. Andrew Harvey's book, The Hope, is going to be available for sale, and also Will Wilkinson's book, Forgiving the Unforgivable, and that has a foreword by Eckhart Tolle. So after the service, please check out the book table back there. And also, we always have refreshments. Now, some of you are here for the very first time. Can you just raise your hand if you're here at Unity in Ashland? Wow, lots of people. You know, because we have a full program, sometimes we just like to see who you are so that we can get to know you afterwards. Sometimes we ask people to give us their name and social security number and all that. Not really. But anyway, we just know that there are lots of newcomers here and we want to welcome you. So we have refreshments afterwards. We can get to know you. You can get to know us. Please remember not to bring food or drink onto the carpeted area, especially if you have children. Watch them with their little cookie crumble hands. Okay, I think we're going to be blessing the children later. First of all, we have some music. So I'm going to turn it over to the musicians.
This is Calling You by Robert Telson. It was featured in the movie Baghdad Cafe.
Thank you, Heather. Again. Beautiful. So all of you heard the call, and here you are. Andrew Harvey, citizen of the world, heard the call. Here he is. Kia Sher, once a housewife in Virginia, now a resident of Mumbai, India, heard the call. Hi, Kia.
Hello.
Norma's here too now.
And Norma Burton. I think you know Norma, do you?
Let's see if it works.
Your is here. Norma, is she able to say hello?
I don't know. Let's see.
Norma, can you say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Oh my God! It worked! It worked!
Norma's in Boulder,
Turn it up a
Colorado.
little.
So this is the part of the service where we have a visioning, and I'll be doing an introduction later. So I'd invite you now to have an experience to prepare us for what's to come. I've chosen a poem, one of my favorite Rilke poems. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to speak it again while Richard, my brother over here, plays for us. And this is meant to be a journey. And our theme today with Andrew is sacred activism, and with Kia, who is a sacred activist extraordinaire. And so are all of we. And as we'll learn from Andrew and Kia, to be a sacred activist means to stand up, to take a stand. So that's what this visioning exercise is about. So first I'll read it, and then we'll have a journey. Sometimes a man stands up during supper and walks outdoors and keeps on walking because of a church that stands somewhere in the east. And his children say blessings on him as if he were dead. And another man who remains inside his own house stays there, inside the dishes and in the glasses, so that his children have to go far out into the world toward that same church that he forgot. They say the greatest burden any of us carry is the unlived dreams of our parents. And so this journey is for our parents. It's for our ancestors, it's for our children. It's for our great-great-grandchildren. That we stand up and we travel towards that church in the east. Sometimes a man stands up during supper and walks outdoors and keeps on walking because of a church that stands somewhere in the east. And his children say blessings on him as if he were dead. And another man who remains inside his own house stays there, inside the dishes and in the glasses, so that his children have to go far out into the world toward that same church that he forgot. Today, we stand up. I stand up for myself, for my children, for my ancestors, for the world, for all beings who inhabit it. We are that church, and we belong right here. And so, a new day dawns.
Take that message deeper into our bodies through song. I invite you to stand. Stretch a little. Enjoy the breath going in and out the body. This chant is called To My Bones, and it's got different verses that repeat. I think you'll catch on pretty quickly that involve the elements. To my bones, take this water, rain down on me. To my bones, take the Spirit, teach me to walk in peace. To my bones, take this fire, fan your flames in me. To my bones, take this earth, grow your roots in me.
Well, it's such a pleasure for me to be back here. Every once in a while when Norma's traveling, she asks me to fill in, and I always love it. It just increasingly feels like my family. Thank you. You're such a warm group. And it's such a pleasure to have Andrew Harvey here today. Andrew's here for about a week, and he's been doing a bunch of things, and I think it's great that Andrew gets to sit and enjoy a few things this morning as well. And then he'll play his part. It's a symbol of all of us. We all have our part to play. I get to do something now that I've never done before, and I always like doing new things. I get to introduce Norma Burton. Usually we're in the same place, or I don't get to do that. But Norma, if you are online and can speak, this would be a good time for you to say a few words before I introduce the rest of the morning.
That's great. I'm so happy to be with you all from Colorado. Outside the window here, it's windy, snowing. And I'm thrilled to be able to welcome you, Andrew, to our spiritual family here at Unity in Ashland. Here, you're amongst a people, both men and women, who have dedicated ourselves to honoring the divine feminine. In many of our Sunday services, we felt the extraordinary presence of the Divine Mother right here with us, within us. And we felt this blessing of being channels of such a fullness of love and grace, like being the Hieros Gamos, the joining place of heaven and earth. In a prophetic dream I had a few years ago, I was shown that in order for this great turning of human consciousness to take place in a timely manner, that we were waiting for Ramakrishna to arrive. So today we welcome you, Andrew, as a representation of Ramakrishna, a man who is devoted to the Great Mother, even as she arrives in the form of the Mother Kali, who deconstructs all that must give way in order for new life to come forth. So we welcome you, Andrew, to a community who deeply understands your mission. We're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Norma. We have also online with us this morning Kia Sher from Mumbai, and I'll be saying a little more about her later. She's going to speak after Andrew does. I met Kia when I was doing research for one of my recent books, Forgiving the Unforgivable, and this is the story of the Mumbai terrorist attack in 2008, and a small group of meditators who were trapped in the Oberoi Hotel, and two of them were killed, and those two were Kia's husband and young daughter. So she's since gone on from that unbelievably traumatic experience to found the One Life Alliance, written this book, and teaches forgiving the unforgivable in India and in America. And I'll say a little more about her when I introduce her later. It seems very appropriate to have Kia on the line today when our theme is sacred activism. And this is something that's kind of Andrew's middle two names, and I'm so excited to share him with you this morning. He's become such a deep friend, such a generous man, generous on every level. To prepare us for some time with Andrew, we've got an incredible opportunity to join with a phenomenal musician and being, Pauline Sullivan, and her accompanist, Joanne Linden, to present Ave Maria. And I think Ave Maria is a perfect song this morning. It is a prayer. It's a prayer with many archetypal elements in it, some of which you may know. A woman hiding, the Lady of the Lake is a reference you may remember. An exiled father and warriors considering battle. It's a prayer to the Virgin Mother for help. And so as we're listening to this beautiful song, I'd like all of us to just feel into our own prayer for help. Because all of us do need help to do what we came here to do on the earth in the 21st century in a world in peril. We need help. So please help me welcome Pauline and Joanna and Ave Maria.
Hello, dear friends. I am extremely happy to be with you. And I've chosen for the subject of what I want to transmit to you, I've chosen heartbreak. You know that the world is in an unprecedented stage of pain, horror, and danger. You know that the environment is now in free fall, and you live in a country in which 60% of people deny climate change. You know that there are 2 billion people living on less than $1.50 a day in hideous conditions. You know that every single day 200 species are vanishing, and that in 10 years there may be no lions, and in 15 years there may be no elephants. You know that by 2048, according to the latest scientific explorations, the entire sea of the world will be so polluted that there will be no fish living in it. You know that methane gas is now being released in such terrifying quantities, and methane gas is 40 times more powerful than CO2, that there are some really sober and well-trained scientists who are telling us that if we continue to release methane gas in such quantities, we may go extinct and take the whole of nature in its current form with us in the next 15 to 20 years. You know that far from being peaceful and united, the world is now ravaged by religious fundamentalism, by terrorism, and by the crazy imperial ambitions of our glorious country. And you also know that the reaction to all of these tragic and terrible situations is still fragile, incoherent, riddled with magical thinking, riddled with fantasy, and riddled with denial. So what we are facing is an unprecedentedly difficult situation, unprecedentedly unempowered. So I want you just to take that in. And I want you to allow yourself to begin to feel that at a depth that you may never have allowed yourself to feel it before. The single thing that you and I are most frightened of is the kind of radical, agonizing, dread-filled heartbreak that anyone facing the potential end of the human race in this orgy of greed and madness and exploitation must feel. And you know also that available to us at this moment to help us deal with the situation are a whole slew of fake mysticisms that stress only the light and tell us that it is dangerous and unproductive to look at the dark at the very moment when the dark is having an orgy all over the world. So if you want to stand up at this moment, and how could any decent, loving human being who cares for the future not want to stand up at this moment? How could anyone, seeing what we are potentially facing, not want to become strong enough and vibrant enough and vital enough and impassioned enough and energetic enough to really go far out of their comfort zone so as to become servants of the possibility of a birth from this mad death? If you really see where we are, and if you really want to stand up, all of us are going to have to face the great central paradox of the true mystical path. And this great central paradox of the true mystical path, not the fla-fla marzipan nonsense that's in the great corporate-sponsored bazaar of the New Age, not that. I'm talking about the true Jesus path, the true Rumi path, the path of the lovers, the path of the heroic warriors and midwives of love. If you want to stand up, you're going to have to face this paradox. And it is a frightening paradox, but it is also a glorious paradox. And the paradox is this: your and my deepest and most radical heartbreak will, if we surrender to it and surrender to the grace that gives us it, lead us to our most passionate, empowered, energetic joy. So there is no way out for any of us at this moment except to give up magical thinking, to give up the fantasy that a savior is going to save us, to give up the fantasy that technology is going to bring in sudden solutions which is suddenly going to make the seas fertile again, to give up all the ways in which we are protecting ourselves from this situation, and find the courage, the holy, wonderful, powerful courage to actually stand here and say, I open my heart totally to what is happening, knowing that if I do, it will crucify my heart, but knowing too that crucifixion leads to resurrection. The single most important mystical phenomenon of our time, apart from the majestic return of the divine feminine to us at the moment when we need her most, is the return to us of the greatest mystical poet of humanity, Rumi. And there is no coincidence at the moment when we are asked as a human race to face the crucifixion of the heart, to face the crucifixion of heartbreak, that the greatest master of the alchemy of heartbreak, leading to the most full and impassioned and energetic joy, has come back in the great translations of Coleman Barks and other translators like myself to empower us and to show us the way through to joy, which always goes down into the pit of the heartbreak that dissolves our illusions and fantasies and pseudo-projects to expose us completely to the grace of the divine that then transforms us and makes us humble servants of its will to make a new world. And what I want to do with you before I hand myself over to Will and to Kia, who has lived the most unimaginable heartbreak, who has suffered the horror of losing her husband and her child to the nightmare of our time, terrorism, and who instead of being paralyzed by that heartbreak, instead of being beaten down by that heartbreak, found in her holy self the courage to say, I am not going to be defeated by this heartbreak. I am going to travel through it and learn its lessons of unconditional compassion. I am going to put them into practice. I am going to found a foundation, and I am going to help everybody who is going through this terrible time learn how to forgive in such a way that reconciliation and peace remain possible in almost impossible situations. What an example and challenge to all of us to get real about where we are, to get real about going very much deeper into the divine path, to get real about standing outside our addictions to comfort and our addictions to playing small, and standing up for the world which we all love so deeply, but which few of us love deeply enough yet to really risk ourselves and risk our resources and risk our hearts and risk our energies. God is calling us now in this nearly impossible situation to gamble our lives away for God. And if we can, if hundreds of thousands and millions of us can, who knows what can happen at 2 minutes to midnight? Who knows what a loving army of midwife love warriors coming together out of a massive heartbreak, but with faith in the power of God, who knows what they could still accomplish? You must get real about where we are. You must get real about the need to go far, far deeper in spiritual practice so that you can find the core that is undefeated by disaster or death. And I beg you, you must stand up. Or what will you face when you pass the judgment of death? When the only question that will be asked you is the question that the Christ asked me in the vision that changed my life, when he said, the only question that you'll be asked at the end of a time like this is, what did you do while the world was burning? What did you do? What did you actually love enough, care enough about to risk your comfort for? You, I know, love Rumi. So many people tell me, wherever I go, Rumi is my beloved. And there are few words that cause me more joy, because I have lived with him for 40 years. I have loved him for 40 years. I have tried to translate and recreate him for 40 years. And I have tried to immerse myself in his great holy knowledge of heartbreak leading to joy. But Rumi didn't just spring up and become this geyser, this lava flow of molten golden passion. He went through in his life the horrific dark night process that we are now living globally. And that's why his poetry is so important for us, because on the one hand it's saying to us, get real. Stop pretending that the path is only sweetness and light. It is also being broken open. Being broken so you can be broken open. Being emptied of your false self so you can be filled with the truth of divine inspiration. Being crucified so you can be resurrected. And he knew that because he learnt that where we all have to learn it, in the cauldron of real life. He learnt it because at the age of 36, he met the man that he'd been longing to meet, Shams of Tabriz, a supremely great spiritual teacher who took him by the scruff of his neck and dragged him through an immense and terrifying and amazing transformation. And then after 3 years, was probably killed by Rumi's own son, because his family believed that Shams was mad and was betraying their father and seducing their father into madness. And Rumi, at that death of the man that he knew, incarnated God, who had revealed to him the secret of the universe, went mad. And he didn't go mad for a weekend. He went mad, tortured by grief for 3 long, terrible, terrible years in which he wandered the Middle East, totally in denial about the death of Shams, begging people hysterically at the side of the road, totally derelict, this supreme man, begging people, have you seen Shams? Have you seen Shams? Totally destroyed by heartbreak, even after all of his illuminations. And then, one amazing afternoon in Syria, sitting on a hotel bedroom with his exhausted and depressed son who had followed him through this terrible journey, he suddenly became filled with an ecstasy and a joy that he had never felt before. And he said to Sultan Valad, he said, "It is over. It is over. The mad pain is over. He is living in me." Love never dies. When you love someone as I loved him, then heartbreak doesn't destroy love. It empties of you of everything that isn't love, so that a love far more amazing and far more powerful can come and take you over. Because at last, through your courage to embrace heartbreak, you have died into love. And that was the moment when Rumi became Rumi. Because after that moment, he poured himself out to the world in this vast volcanic flow of ecstatic poetry that is the greatest single body of poetry about divine love and about the path to divine love that humanity has ever been given. So that is the way in which you are made a warrior midwife of love. You are shattered by heartbreak, but you are held in the infinite arms of grace. You are reconstructed, but no longer as the small you, the petty you, hungry for comfort, hungry for status, hungry for celebrity, all of which he was, but as the surrendered servant of a mystery that you now know is wild, unconditional, holy, infinite love. So I want to read to you 3 poems that will take you and myself to the core of this revelation, which I believe is the crucial revelation for our time. Those philosophies that tell us to be joyful and cheerful only in the face of this are psychotic. And those philosophies that teach us to despair in the face of this are psychotic. But the real truth is honored and stood for in the real warriors of love, and what they say to us is, open your hearts, allow the pain in, stop pretending it's not here, and trust in love to break you so completely that you can be remade personally by love, so that you can become love's standard bearer, love's wild, loving warrior midwife in reality. Trust this path, my friends. This is the only real path to becoming what we are, I believe, destined to become through this crisis, divine human beings. And there is no path to divinization that does not pass through the death of the false self. So, I think I've made my point by now. And I want you to listen to the greatest alchemist of this path, the real path, the only real path that I know, Rumi. So let me begin by a poem which Coleman, who is a beloved friend of mine, an incredible force, translated. Borrow the beloved's eyes and look through them, and you'll see the beloved's face everywhere. No tiredness, no jaded boredom. I shall be your eye and your hand and your loving. Let that happen, and things you have hated will become helpers. A certain preacher always prays long and with enthusiasm for thieves and muggers that attack people on the street. Let your mercy, O Lord, cover their insolence. He doesn't pray for the good, but only for the blatantly cruel. Why is this? His congregation asks. Because they have done me such generous favors. Every time I turn back toward the things they want, I run into them. And they beat me and leave me nearly dead in the road. And I understand again that what they want is not what I want. They keep me on the spiritual path. And that is why I honor and pray for them. Those that make you return for whatever reason to God's solitude, be grateful to them. Worry about the others who give you delicious comforts and keep you from prayer. Friends can be enemies, my friends, and enemies, friends. There is an animal called an ushku, a porcupine. And if you hit it with a stick, it extends its quills and gets bigger. The soul is a porcupine made strong by stick beating. And so a prophet's soul is especially afflicted because it has to become so powerful. A hide is soaked in tanning liquor and becomes leather. And if the tanner did not rub in the acid, the hide would get foul smelling and rotten. The soul is a newly skinned hide, bloody and gross. Work on it with manual discipline. Work on it with the bitter, tanning acid of heartbreak. And you will become beautiful and so amazingly strong. And if you can't do this work, don't worry. You don't even have to make a decision. The friend who knows a lot more than you do is going to bring difficulties, heartbreak, sickness, powerlessness, helplessness, as medicine, as joy, as the essence of the moment when you are finally beaten, when you hear checkmate, and can finally say in the voice of Al-Halaj, "Oh beloved, I trust you to kill me." That is supreme wisdom. And the next poem I want to choose for you is the poem that we are now living through as the whole human race. Remember the end of that poem? When God has you checkmate, we are now checkmate. Because the truth is, no solution born from the current level of human consciousness is going to work on any level. And the next level isn't simply a level, as so many New Agers say, of consciousness. Not that they know much about real divine consciousness. The next level is the most demanding level imaginable. It's the level that I believe sacred activism is now here to engender. It's a level in which we don't just evolve into an amazing new consciousness, which we can then delight in and enjoy for ourselves, which would be another orgy of narcissism. We've indulged in so many. It's a level in which we develop this divine consciousness and realize that what we are being called to is to put compassion into action on every level. Because it's only when you bring the personal and the impersonal, the transcendent and the immanent, the male and the female, the body and the soul, and the feminine and the masculine, and deep spirituality with deep commitment to justice, it's only then that the divine can be born completely in the human, because the divine then will be both simultaneously deeply peaceful and passionately active. And that is the new level. And until you see it in that way, you will not be a birther of the new. You'll just be playing in the sandpit of your own magical game. And this is why this poem will be so sacred to you, as it has become sacred to me. Because this poem that I'm about to recite to you is the poem in which Rumi, in 10 lines, goes through the whole horrible and amazing process of the dark night and shows exactly what it is and what it requires. So I'm hoping that you will hear it, and hear it as your poem and as the poem of the world at this moment. The grapes of my body can only become wine after the trampler tramples me. I surrender my body to his trampling, so my inmost heart can blaze with joy. And although the grapes go on sobbing blood and screaming, I cannot I cannot bear any more cruelty. The trampler stuffs cotton in his ears and says, "It is I who am the master of this work, and I am not working in ignorance. You have every excuse to deny me, but when through my fierce passion you reach perfection, you will never stop praising my name." The grapes of my body can only become wine. The grapes of my resources, the grapes of my being, the grapes of my gifts, the grapes of my deep contributions will only become a free-flowing wine when I have been trampled by reality, by the shadow, by the horror, by the madness, because only then will I become urgent enough about giving away everything I have to help and to serve others. Otherwise, I'll be still in the mythical comfort zone, pretending that all is well, and give only a little of myself, hoard myself. When you really get how little time we have, how much the agony of the world is threatening the whole future of the world, you won't hide anymore. You'll be desperate to go deeper so that you can give more and more and more and more to help others. This is the law of life, this is the law of God, this is the law of love. And then he says in the next two lines, "I surrender." He has the courage because he knows that love is doing this, however terrible it is. He doesn't know why love is doing it. He doesn't know why it has to be like that, but he knows that if it's happening, it must be love that's making it happening for a reason that will be revealed. And he says, "I surrender." And that's what you and I have to do, to surrender to the truth of the horror of the situation, so that the truth of the horror can guide us to a much deeper place. I surrender my body like grapes to his trampling. I give up any pretension that I can hide from this. I surrender. And then he gives us this amazing line, "So my inmost heart, despite what everything else is happening to me, so my inmost heart can blaze with joy." Because when you know that your heartbreak and your agony at the world that's being trampled by this whole mad orgy is actually a trampling that is organized by a love intelligence to free us from our egotism and our narcissism, and it's brought us to this place. When you begin to understand that, then you can, even in the middle of great suffering, remain tremendously attuned to joy, because you know that your pain is a tremendous gift from the beloved to make you, despite yourself, despite your narcissism, despite your selfishness, finally real, finally fearless, finally authentic. Any lesser poet would have ended the poem there. But Rumi is a supreme realist of the process. And he understands that you don't just have a week of heartbreak and then spring into joy, as has been suggested in certain unity churches that I have been to, which is why I have never accepted their invitations to go back, because there's no point in talking to the already crazed. There's no point. I haven't got the energy anymore. I focus my energies now. If it's a long process, it's a process you have to submit to, and this is how the process looks like. Although the grapes do go on sobbing blood and screaming, "I cannot bear any more cruelty, I cannot bear any more anguish, I cannot bear any more news about ISIS, I cannot bear any more news about the environment, I cannot bear any more news about the lions not being here, I cannot bear any more news about the poor starving while the rich become richer in their fancy Malibu mansions, I cannot bear it, close it down, I don't want to listen to it, right? I cannot bear any more anguish, I cannot bear any more cruelty." you're in a process which is not going to stop because you're in suffering. The suffering is the point of the process. And that's why Rumi says the trampler stuffs cotton in his ears and says, and these are stupendous, rigorous, ruthless, amazing words which I beg you to get into the core of yourself, because they will give you the huge clue to the transformation that's trying to take place on the earth. The trampler is going to stuff cotton in his ear. It's already stuffed the ears, because this is major surgery that God is about in our time. One kind of humanity has to die, because that kind of humanity is now lethal to itself and the whole of life. It is AIDS of the heart walking. And what God does in the last part of this poem is terrible and wonderful, and that sounds like God to me. Because my God is not only a sweet God, my God is a terrible God, and I love that terrible aspect because I know I need it more almost than the sweet. The sweet I can live with, the terrible transforms me. And this is what God says. I am not stuffing my ears in ignorance. Do you really think I don't know what you're going through? I'm putting you through it because you need it. It is I who am the master of this work. You can't get out of it. You can deny me if you want. You have every excuse. You can whine. You can say you don't want to see. You can believe in magical solutions. You can do what the hell you want, but none of it would work. You can deny me if you want. You have every excuse. But if you deny me, and if you deny the passion of this process, and if you deny the truth of this process, you will never come to the end of this process. You'll simply be battered by heartbreak rather than transfigured by heartbreak. And if you stay in the cauldron of heartbreak, and if you surrender, and if you trust, the second line of the poem, the last two lines, will become overwhelmingly vivid to you. When through my fierce passion you reach perfection, empty servanthood of the divine in reality, sacred activism at its purest and holiest, then you need never be done praising my name, because you will be born as a different kind of human being. You'll be born into divine humanhood. You'll be born as Jesus was born, as Rumi was born, as Ramakrishna was born. And it's this birth that the divine is going to get out of us, even if billions have to die. So get with the birth. Don't worry about the pain. Accept the pain and use the pain to get real, to get down, and to get going now. Because the world is hanging by a thread. We have very little time to make urgent changes. And if you continue to resist the process, all you'll be doing is actually helping humanity dig a huge ditch for itself and die there. And now I want to read perhaps the most beautiful and most encouraging of his poems, because Rumi knew from his own experience that terrible though this process was, it was necessary, and the result of it was glorious. Look what happened to him. He was an intellectual, very proud, very self-absorbed. He met somebody who transfigured him. He then went through the most atrocious dark night, and he was born as a volcano of divine creativity, which will never stop flowing until the day of judgment. So the man who he emerged to be could look back on the horrible struggles and bless them as the greatest imaginable mercy of a mysterious love that is prepared to kill to transform. And this knowledge permeates this holy poem, which is the other poem that I keep in the core of my heart. Because I'm not standing here as somebody who is only heartbroken. I am heartbroken. But I am also living in divine joy and in divine energy, because I, in my own much smaller way, have been through a horrific dark night, and I have been reborn, and I know what is awaiting you if you dare the process. And I know too that those who stand up in a time like this, those who stand up as they really need to stand up, giving everything, not keeping anything back, because that's what God needs on the earth, I know that those too will be formed in this tremendous tango of death and resurrection. And I know for myself the truth of this poem, the truth of this great holy poem, because I live it. And so many thousands of people that I meet are living it. Because all the great sacred activists on the earth, and I've met hundreds of thousands of them, all of them have been shattered and broken, and all of them have been remade, and all of them are doing everything they can from a new center, an empty center, a surrendered center. So please join us. We need you. Stop pretending. Stop defending yourselves. Get burnt away and come and join the lovers of the fire. The whole world could be choked with thorns, but a lover's heart will stay a rose garden. The wheel of heaven could wind to a halt, but the world of lovers will go on turning. And even if every being grew sad, a lover's soul will still stay fresh, vibrant, light. Are all the candles out? Well, hand them to a lover. A lover shoots out 100,000 fires. A lover may be solitary, but she is never alone. For companion, she has always the hidden beloved. The drunkenness of lovers comes from the soul, and love's companion stays hidden in secret. Love cannot be deceived by 100 promises. It knows how innumerable the ploys of seducers are. Wherever you find a lover on a bed of pain, you will find the beloved right by her bedside. So, mount the stallion of love, and do not fear the path, however black with obstacles the way may be. The soul of a real lover spurns all futile fodder, and only in the wine of bliss and sacred action can your soul find peace. And through the grace of my beloved Shams Uddin of Tabriz, may you possess a heart at once drunk and supremely lucid. I know that this path terrifies you. It terrifies me. But it's the only path that can transform us. And it's the only path that can heal us of the addictions that are now killing us and everything that we love. So, please, in a time soon, get up in the middle of the night. Surround yourself by peace and protection. Try and get rid of all the polluting New Age mysticism you've ever heard. And turn your heart to the agony of the real world potentially burning to death in an extinction crisis. Allow yourself, while seated in the protection of peace, to begin to feel what every human being is now asked to feel. The terrible dereliction of our mad addiction to power. And then as you really start to be, for the first time some of you may be, truly human, because to be truly human is to allow the fullness of this dereliction in. Ask yourself one question, because it will give you the key as to what you are summoned to do by the Divine Beloved. Ask yourself, dare to ask yourself, and go on asking yourself if you don't get an immediate answer, what of all the causes in this world breaks my heart the most? And when you find that cause, when you find the cause that so breaks your heart that you can hardly bear to think about it, even thinking about it is something you avoid a great deal, then you will know what the Beloved has summoned you to do. Because when you find the cause that shatters your heart, you also find in the center of your broken heart a fountain of divine passion, energy, which will never run dry. My cause is the cause of animals, because to me the worst thing that we are doing, and there's so many possible candidates for that particular, is the way in which we have created a worldwide Auschwitz for animals. We are the Gauleiters, you and I, of a massive concentration camp in which the habitats of the animals are being annihilated, the holy species are being destroyed, and we are torturing and killing 57 billion animals for our table every year. 57 billion, imagine the tsunami of black karma that's coming to us from that atrocious slaughter. What breaks your heart, my friends? What breaks your heart? What breaks your heart? What breaks your heart? Through acknowledging your heartbreak, you will at last be listening to love's real voice. And what love will be saying to you when you find that cause is, you have identified why you are on the earth. You've identified the piece of my heartbreak that you are asked to share. And you've identified your mission, which is now to stand up, however trembling you feel, however fearful you feel, and go forward and do something real with others about it. And if you do, I promise you, and this is the Beloved speaking, I swear to you, I will not make your life comfortable. I will not ensure, like The Secret, that you will manifest Malibu mansions and Cuban passports. I will not ensure that your book gets on Oprah. But what I will do is that I will be your beloved and your friend. And I will give you energy, and I will give you love, and I will give you fearlessness, and I will give you courage. And more than even all of these, I will give you eternal life in a body. So, that's a good bargain, I would say. Please be brave enough to embrace that bargain. Thank you.
At some moment in this torrent of fierce love, it may have occurred to you that this is real and the spotlight is shining on you. Sometimes awakening comes that way. Sometimes it comes with a 2x4. For Kia Sher, I'll read what happened to her. Life as I knew it changed on November 26, 2008, when my husband Alan and 13-year-old daughter Naomi were shot and killed by terrorists in the Tiffin restaurant at the Oberoi Hotel in Mumbai, India, along with 158 others. I'm asking you to join with me and so many others in transforming this heart-wrenching tragedy by taking a stand and making a personal commitment to honor the life we share. The time has come to join together as one. We are one human family. Let us honor the sacredness of life in ourselves and in each other. Together we can shift the scales of balance to a life-affirmative focus. It begins with each one of us, with the choices we make, moment to moment. And Kia, if you're there, now would be a wonderful time to hear from you.
Wow. Andrew, you took our breaths away and lit a fuse with your passion. So I thank you for that. And you described perfectly and helped me understand what transpired in the aftermath of these attacks. Because in the immediate aftermath, my heart was shattered completely. And I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, and we just sat there staring at the ongoing news on the television, and I was struck by the photo of the lone surviving terrorist, and I saw that he was so young, barely 20 years old, and in that moment, the words of Christ came ringing into my consciousness, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." And I said this aloud to my family, and at first they were resistant. And then I said it was already too much hate. And that was lacking. We must send them our love and compassion. Now, I never understood where was this all coming from, but Andrew helped me to understand this, because now I know it was that broken heart, and what's left is love. And when people saw Alan and Naomi's photographs on the news, they felt some of that heartbreak. And it moved them to write these emails. And through the website that from our meditation group, over 1,000 emails came in from around the world, very personal messages of love and prayer and support, poetry, messages of love, compassion, and peace. Now, I always agreed that, yes, we're one world family, and that was a theory, a concept. And I really believed that. But to experience that personally is a completely different thing. And that's when my world changed. There was no more inside world, outside world. There was one world. And there really was this family. And I felt ever since then compelled to go and meet the family. Now, there's two messages that I want to share with you, because it's such beautiful examples of this love from people on the other side of the world that come from completely different cultures that saw this on the news. The first is someone named Abid Khan. Alan and Naomi, my dears, I didn't even know you, and yet I love you. You are still alive inside our hearts. And your peaceful smiles are still illuminating our world. Nothing can change it. Dear Sia, I get the beautiful sense of what to say to any of you. However, I have a feeling your sons and daughters are still nosy, that looking down and smiling at you with emptiness and vibrant space. And this one is amazing.
Tell her to speak into the phone.
Kia, we're losing your voice quality. You might need to speak more into the receiver.
Okay, is this better?
That's much better. And we didn't hear the last part of what you read. Whole email.
I was reading a message from somebody on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I think you could read that again so we could hear it, and keep your voice right close to your mouth, close to the receiver.
Okay. Alan and Naomi, my dears, I didn't even know you, and yet I love you. You are still alive inside our hearts, and your peaceful smiles are still illuminating our world. Nothing can change this. Dear Kia, I can't begin to think of what to say to ease your pain. However, I have a feeling that your spouse and daughter are still near you, but looking down and smiling at you with gentleness and vibrant joy. And this one more is, on behalf of the Iranian family, we would like to condemn this cowardly act and assure you Alan and Naomi will live forever in all of us. This is not a time for expressing hate, but a time for strength to show the whole world we stand united. God bless Christians, Jews, Muslims, and Hindus. God bless humanity. God bless Alan and Naomi. Love from your Iranian family. Excuse me. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And it shows us who we are as human beings. This is it. This is the truth. This is it. And so this is how what I've come to understand is sacred activism is born. And from the moment we're born, we enter into a kind of love story with life. Just as the birth of a baby evokes a new kind of love, death, this kind of tragic death, actually heartbreak, just as Andrew said, I found that it brought forth another aspect of love, and a love that is day by day taking over all of my life. And this is a love that never dies, and it can't be killed no matter how big and powerful the weapon. Terrorists have no power over any of that. Nothing, 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 nothing. And there's a lot more of us than there are terrorists. And this is what drives me. There's a lot more of us, and there's a lot more love. Tons and tons of tons more love than there is that hatred. And I think that this is where my passion is sprung from that heartbreak. So thank you, Andrew, for helping me to understand that. And I have an even greater appreciation of the opportunity that now lies before all of us, because we're all in this together, for sure. It takes each and every one of us, each and every one of our hearts, every drop of love that we have to bring into every single moment. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Kia.
And it's a great honor and thrill for me to participate from across the world.
Thank you, Kia.
So we're going to go ahead and prepare for the offering. And we also have a song for you called And Beyond by Kailash Kokopelli. I invite you to sing it with me. It has a chorus that repeats Sacred One, Source Within, and Beyond. It's quite beautiful. And thank you for your financial support of these beautiful gatherings and services, like today. This be kind of a meditation. Above and below, and all around you are, above and below, and all around you are. You are the essence of all the beauty of life. You are the essence of all the love in my life. Sacred One, source within and beyond. flows within and beyond. Please join me. Sacred ones, source